Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome yet again to another episode of Dinner Guide. My name is Chef Andy and today we are going to be playing on a beautiful classic dish. We're going to be playing on a Dorowatt, which is a chicken dish from Ethiopia. So I'm just going to introduce some of the ingredients we're going to be working with and then we're just going to go straight into it. So I'll start from the front. Here I have some tinned peeled tomato. I've got some plain yogurt, some red chopped onion, some beautiful cubed chicken there, some Berber sauce. I've got some coriander and parsley, some ginger, some green peas here. I've also got some coconut milk and I've got some beautiful dough here, which I'll show you what we'll do with later. And then on the spice side, I have some allspice, I have some cumin powder, I've got some salt, some tomato paste, I've got some garlic powder, some butter, some curry powder, and some aniseed liqueur. So without further ado, I'll give you this chance to grab your pens and papers, and when we come back, we're gonna go straight into it. See you in a little bit. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For those who missed out on the introductory bit of the show, I was actually introducing a dish that we'll be working on today. So we're going to be playing with a dish that's originally Ethiopian, but we're going to give it our own twist on the show today. So without further ado, I'll just start by grabbing some of the ingredients here. And basically what we are doing now, we are going to be doing some Dorowatt. So it's going to be a beautiful, it's more of a build-up of a curry, but it's just a little different with the twist of how you actually finish the dish. So I'm going to show you all that now. So in a nice pan, we just keep it at moderate heat there. And I will start with some olive oil. Right, so you want to give your pan a little bit of time to heat up. So basically what we're going to do now is we're going to brown the chicken, and right after that we're actually going to now start incorporating every one of the other ingredients which we have here. So as soon as you have your oil just slightly getting a little hotter there, going to spill in some of that butter. So this is just regular butter, you can get this in any store. Right, so once your butter is nicely melted down, we're just going to add the chicken in there. And I'm going to turn my heat to high. And all we're going to do now is brown the chicken. We're going to give that a bit of time to cook, and then we're going to start introducing everything else into our pots. So while that's cooking, I'm just going to start by chopping up some of the fresh herbs we have here. So I have a choice of parsley and coriander. So we're just going to give that a nice rough chop. So give it a nice chop all the way to the end. Remember not to include any of your stems. And then I'm also going to chop some coriander. Gonna give this a continuously mixing this. We're just going to continue giving it a bit of color. So the idea of starting with your chicken is just to allow the chicken to start cooking through. It makes it a little more easier and a little faster to complete your dish. So this should be browning for about another 3 or 4 minutes. In the meantime, we're just going to prepare everything else. So I've also got a nice big knob of ginger, which I'm just going to finely grate quickly. Right, that's about enough. Just going to scoop that with a spoon off the back of my grater. That's all gonna go in there. So a bit more ginger in there. Then we're gonna go in with one small finely chopped onion. And all you want to do now is continue mixing this as it continues to brown. So this is a beautiful dish you can actually start to make at least 1 hour before serving time. It's a very, very simple dish as well. As I mentioned, it's very much like a typical curry as you know it, just that it doesn't have as many influences with the Indian seasonings as we would be doing as we would do an Indian curry. Okay, so if you can be able to see into the pot there, I've got some nice beautiful chunks there, just lightly browned. So as soon as you get to that stage, we're just going to start adding in our dry spices. So I'm going to start with my allspice, and I'm also going with some cumin and some jeera. And then I am also going to add a bit of curry powder, and then a bit of garlic powder. So what you want to do is continue mixing this as it cooks. You don't want to leave your pot unattended, just to make sure it doesn't burn your spices. So a good aroma is coming through now. We're getting a bit of that allspice, a bit of that garlic powder. And your mixture is starting to, just as soon as your mixture just starts to become a little dry, we're now going to go in with a bit of our yogurt. So this is just plain regular yogurt. And then I'm going to go in with some coconut milk. So that's about half a cup of each. Right, so what you're doing is you're basically now building the creaminess into the sauce. You're actually now starting to build your sauce in. Remember, your chicken is also cooking as you continue. So to that we'll add our baba sauce. So this is about 3/4 cups. And for those of you who might not understand what that is, you actually should be able to get a good recipe from any of the Ethiopian outlets, or you can actually just check it out on our page much later on. Right, so just gonna give that a bit of time to cook down, and in the meantime we're gonna do something a little interesting with the dough we had earlier. So very, very simple technique of making an Ethiopian chicken dish. Right, so all I'm going to do now is we're going to transfer this to the burner at the end here, and we're just going to allow this to continue cooking slowly. And in the meantime, I will now show you what this beautiful dough we had made earlier is going to be doing for us today. So basically we're going to be grilling it right on the top of the fire. So it's a very, very similar technique to how bread is made in the tandoori oven, just that we're improvising it on the grill, on our burner, on our burner. So all I'm going to do is just split those into about 3 pieces, and we're going to be working off the surface of our counter. So be sure to clean your counter before you get to this stage. Right, and now we're just going to grab a bit of flour. We're just going to dust our countertops there. So I'm just going to give that a nice light press at the top. This is just to make sure we've got a nice solid ball there, and make sure there's no any air pockets in there as well. You wanna avoid those. And all we are going to do now is we're gonna lightly roll this out. So be sure to give it a nice dusting, give it a few turns in the beginning. Be sure to always keep turning it around just to make sure you get a nice even coating of flour. And also this allows you to get a nice thickness out of your dough. So we're going to be rolling this out about 3 to 4 inches. Right, so this is about done. So I'm going to roll the remaining pieces just the same way. So as I said, always remember to keep turning your dough around. It allows you to get a more even texture out of your dough as you roll it out. Allows you to actually also avoid having too much flour on one side. And if you prefer to do this also on your board, it's also allowed. I prefer to work on the surface of the table because the dough is a little firm. And just for the ingredients that went into this, so there's about half a teaspoon of salt in here, about 3/4 cup of cold water, cold fridge water, and 1 cup of flour, and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Just going to finish rolling this last bits off. And while I do that, we're going to take a short commercial break, and when we come back, I'm going to show you basically what we're going to be doing with the dough here. And we're also going to be checking on our chicken. I'll show you how that looks like when it's done. So to the pot that's already going there on low heat, all we're going to add to that is a bit of kankase, which is just peeled tomato. I'm going to be adding a bit of the star aniseed liqueur, and we're just going to thin that down with a bit of water just to make sure it's not too thick. So see you after the short break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We took a short break, and now we're just back to finish this beautiful Ethiopian twist of a dish we're doing today. So we're just about to finish this off, and all I'm going to do now is I'm going to be adding a bit of my peas here. It's about 1/4 cup of peas, and then I'm going to add just a little bit of water just to thin that sauce down. And last but not least, my curry powder, my curry paste. Just going to give that a mix and allow that to just finish off slowly. So remember, this has been cooking on low heat for now about 20 minutes, and it's just about done. Right, so in the meantime, I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful grilled bread we'll be doing today. So it's a very similar technique to making a chapati the Indian way, but we're going to be making them a little much smaller and a little much thicker than the regular. So all I'm going to do is just brush off most of that flour on the surface of my dough. And all we're going to do with these is we're just going to lay them right on top of the flame like that. And we're going to give it about 3 or 4 about 10 to 14 seconds to just start to cook on one side, and then we're going to turn them around. So remember to be very careful when you're trying this at home. I recommend be very cautious when you're particularly doing this and you're doing this on an open flame. Right, so we're just getting a bit of color on the bread as I mentioned earlier. So this cooks really, really quickly. Very similar technique to making tandoori. We're just gonna give that a bit of a mix and add our parsley and our coriander. And last but not least, our aniseed liqueur. Right, so this is about ready now. And we're just going to do the same thing with the rest of the dough. Just it goes on top of the flame like that. And then I'm just going to give this a nice mix. And this is now ready to serve. So I'm just going to turn that off. Give that a bit of time to cool off while we finish off this beautiful bread. So as you can see, nice, beautiful grilled bread, very naturally done. Very little oil in the dough as well. As I mentioned earlier, it's just a mixture of a bit of flour, a bit of salt, a bit of oil, and a bit of cold water. Right, so we're just going to go with those two for now. And now all we're going to do is bring this to a board here, and we're just going to cut these. Right, and this is also done, so we're just going to take those off the heat. We're just gonna slice those like that. Right, so our nice beautiful grilled bread is done. Our beautiful chicken's done, and now we're just going to get on to plating. I'm just going to grab a bowl behind me here. Right, as you can see, nice beautiful color to that beautiful chicken there. And it's a no-fuss dish, as I mentioned earlier. If you're going to be doing this for dinner, you may want to start about an hour to an hour and a half in advance if you really want to serve it right on time. But if of course you're pressed for time, you could always do this in advance and just reheat this straight from your oven or in your microwave just before serving. The bread, on the other hand, is always recommended to be made as fresh as possible, because it could actually become very soggy if it sits in the fridge too long. Right, so in our beautiful plate there, we'll just place those on. I'm going to do the same with this beautiful grilled bread that we made earlier. And that is ready to serve. So very simple Ethiopian twist to a dish. As I mentioned earlier, this is something that is very much easy for you to make yourselves at home now. You have the recipe, you have the technique. It's been a pleasure being with you today. You've been tuned in to Dinner Guide, and your host is Chef Andy. It's been a pleasure being with you guys today. So from the studios and from myself, have a lovely night.